stuff thrown out, so.
Real sturdy.
There's the minutes.
Are we ready to go to session?
We are in session.
Oh, we are? Yeah.
I found out that the price of oil for this year will be $78 a barrel.
Is that up or down?
Up from last year, $8.25 a barrel.
That's good.
That's a 10% increase. That's good for us, right?
I have a request for Michelle Smith's annual salary increase.
Okay. Range 5, now go to range 5, step 6, is that correct? I make a motion we approve the salary increase.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we increase Michelle Smith from range 5, step 6 to range 5, step 7. All in favor say aye. Motion carried.
I need to go print off one more. I know there's one more in there. I'll go get them all.
Okay, we'll recess.
I'll have a couple things for him.
Takes his aluminum foil out when he gets there.
We just, I kind of looked over the list of things I'd mentioned last week. We had some things that we needed to just put in the paper and get rid of. So a bunch of old air bottles. These are old steel air bottles that no longer are used. They're just piles of them, and we need to do something with them. We have an old metal building, a little 6x8 metal building. It's still in the box. We never used, and we have no use for it. And some items that we grabbed from the annex that we ended up not needing, so we need to get rid of those. We have a ladder that was over at the Zenith station that's missing 3 rungs, but it needs to be disposed of. But I don't really want to just give it away to somebody. A couple pieces of tin off of the new building that were just surplus that we need to get rid of. And so I'm just going to advertise them in the paper and seal bid for each item, and then we'll dispose of them.
What kind of bottles?
These are the old air bottles, the air pack bottles.
Oh.
But they're old ones, steel ones. You know, we got aluminum, well, composite bottles now.
Nobody wants them anymore, they probably don't.
There's no use for us for them. I don't even know that there would be any use for them for anybody. I don't know what they'd use them for. Can't use them any longer for air pack bottles. They're not certified for that.
Scuba diving.
Yeah, we'll get you down there anyway.
Where else going to
No, I don't think
Put that on your back and
use
use
them
it
for
out here.
welders?
They might be able to work for something. like
Can
that.
they refill them? I mean, is it legal to refill them? Whatever. You know what I'm trying
I
to
don't know,
Yes,
yeah. Yeah, they could probably put oxygen in them and use them as an acetylene, small acetylene system or something. I don't really
Is
know
it a
what
backpack thing?
Well, all they are is the bottles. We've thrown away the air pack assembly things that went with them. They're real old ones. They just hung around. I mean, we'll probably just dispose of them if there's no
Well, there'd probably be
desire
some
for it.
salvage value.
Yeah, metal salvage value. The only other thing I had is we had a webinar with our ADT system. They have an expanded feature of that system. That's our emergency contacting system. And initially, when we went on to that, you know, there were some communities that just signed everybody up. Well, the biggest reason I kind of steered clear of that is because I didn't want the burden of signing everybody up. You know, it's gonna be very, labor involved. And plus, if you make a mistake, then, you know, oh, it's our mistake. We didn't get you signed up, or we didn't get you changed, or, so I kind of just steer clear of expanding that out. Well, in this webinar, actually, they were showing us a new feature of this system, to where you can go in there and you can draw like areas on a map. You bring up Stafford County, you draw up like if you have an anhydrous tanker truck that crashed, and you can actually go in there and you can highlight an area, and anybody that's signed up within that area gets a notice. So it's kind of a neat feature, and it actually pulls up little dots of everybody that's signed up in that area. But actually that part really wasn't all that, wasn't what I've been visiting with you about. Another thing that I found out that they started doing was, and Franklin County is doing this, is they have a sign-on on their website where people can sign up. And they can also change their information. So it kind of takes care of that concern that I had about being responsible to sign somebody up and being responsible to update their data. The only issue that you'd have would be the folks that don't have internet access or don't, you know, are not internet savvy. And I don't know, I haven't, I'll put Rob on the spot now since he put me on the spot. But I don't know if the Shepherd Center would entertain possibly, I can't see that it'd be a lot of people that would request assistance in signing themselves up.
If they want to come in, we'll help anybody with that, absolutely. In the mornings.
You know, the only issue from there is who pays for it. It's $1.50 a year, so it's very minimal. I personally don't think we're going to have a monstrous number of folks that are going to utilize it. You can sign up, when you sign up one, you sign up like a household, and you get 2 phones, text message, and the internet. And so the message would go out to all of those. So if we had a tornado warning, you just boom, and you hit the group, and it goes out to all of them.
It all goes out simultaneously. I mean, all
Simultaneous.
You got all lots of text and
Yep.
everything.
Yeah. So if your wife and you wanted to be on it, that would and you wanted to go to your internet access and text, then that would be 1. If you wanted your children to be on it, also that'd be another 1. So and they sign up in 50 lots. It's not worth their time to mess with it at $1.50 every time you call.
Oh, look at $75. We got that many people, and unless it's going to be a set price unless it starts increasing or something. It's annual basis, you said.
We signed up for that deal when I first signed up, and that was a 5-year.
That's right, I remember that.
My recommendation would be that we just cover the cost. I think you'd have more time locked in to try and pull that than you would to, you know, you send a bill out for $1.50, it wouldn't even be worth it. We'd talk about, you know, $5. I don't think we're going to have that many people that would sign up for it. I would like to have some. I think we'd advertise maybe annually. Maybe we'd hand out flyers at the Jubilee and at the Oktoberfest that it's available. But I think as a secondary option to folks during the evening of an emergency notification would be good. Not all areas, you know, or even in an area where you have a siren within close distance, and even some at nighttime they wouldn't hear it, but they would hear their phone ring.
So this is sell internet and landline?
Yes, you can do 2 phones, an internet, and I think then it'll do a text message too. So you get 2 phones for every $1.50.
Yeah.
I think so.
But yeah,
I think it's a good service for the people. I mean, it'd be a valuable thing if you got out there way out in the country and had something you didn't know was coming in, you could notify them for the storm or possible severe weather.
The other thing, it has a survey tool also. And they've expanded even that feature of that you can send out a questionnaire that would, like if we had a tornado go through, you could send out a message, are you okay? Press 1 if yes. Well, are you okay? Or you can send out something that asks them if they need assistance. And then if they said no, then at least you could, don't need to go to that one, don't need to go to that one, don't need to go to that one. No reply on these, and these say they need assistance, and maybe you hit the ones that first that say they need assistance, and then the next one, the people that didn't contact, and then the other ones you can hold off on, needing to go to them, they say they're okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And when they come in, of course, they go by address, so you know exactly, which person responded, which person didn't respond, and how they responded.
I think the last tornado they had, they just made a sweep all everywhere, just went house to house, and it took a long time to do it, and they sent people out all night.
You might end up going,
And gone, people that was already all
people
right,
that
but they,
needed help might not be at the top of that
Right.
list, it's just by
Right.
chance. The one thing I need to do is get with our web person and just have her mirror what Franklin County, I looked at theirs, I don't know who else is doing it, but Franklin County was one that when I was doing this webinar thing, she had me pull it up and take a look at theirs. And so theirs, you just pull it up on your website, there's a link there. You pull it up and you sign yourself right up. And some of our need is going to utilize the system also to be able to send out at least to like county employees. So we'll probably send out to our county employees, go ahead and get most of them. It's the same thing if her and Missy would want to put out a question, you'd at least have, or an information thing, you at least have verification that they got the notice. If you say, you got to come tomorrow to turn in this form, you can at least pull up there you got verification that they got the message. They went to their phone, because you can run a query that even shows that who received the message.
I think it's so very inexpensive for, it might be saving some lives out there, but more than it costs. I think it's a laptop. I think we should pay that $1.50 in first round, see what comes into it.
Yeah, I agree. Unless we have 4,000 people sign up, and then maybe we might.
Yeah, there's not that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it will either.
Well, if it's per household,
Yeah.
Well, 2 phones. I mean, if you
Yeah.
got 2 kids that you want their phone number on it too, then you'd have to.
be another $1.50.
Yeah, be another $1.50.
So, do we advertise or?
I think we put that would be my recommendation, that we maybe have Terry do a short story on it, and then maybe you make up some flyers for different events, and then maybe put some notices around on some of the restaurants.
On your website?
Put some
Certainly
flyers
put it on the website.
in the senior centers, I think.
Yeah, put flyers any place where people might pick things up.
Yeah, get them in the elevators.
Yeah, get them at the elevators, get them at the
And
restaurants.
that's the areas that are going to need it the most, is these little
Right.
towns.
Right, they
That's
don't
what I
have
was
storms.
thinking, yeah, the little town.
Yeah, they don't have any storm sirens.
Yeah, they do. Seward and Radium both have.
But I mean, out
some.
in the
But
country.
yeah, sometimes I hear it, sometimes I don't. Depends on where the wind blows.
Right. Right. Some of the smaller communities where maybe the folks that are coming in are countryside livers, they're not gonna have,
They're not going to have any warning. That's the ones you really need to.
right.
And this would fall under emergency preparedness.
Yep.
Okay?
Any
We need a
motion or
motion on that. The consensus, approval.
Okay, I'll give you a report on kind of how it's going, and I'll get with Terry, and we'll do something for, and David Green from over to staff, and we'll do something in the paper. And then, print some brochures up, start getting distributed, just springs. Spring is in the air.
You promise?
Spring's in the
It
air.
might be day after tomorrow,
Thank you.
75 degrees.
Let us do a thing on the TV and the Sandyland website too,
That'd be good.
so we'll get it all.
Okay.
We use
I've got
all
like
of
a
our
little
resources.
flyer thing, so we could actually, you know,
Put it on the
post
bulletin
it.
board.
Yep, that'd be great. Thanks.
Carol, somebody.
Carolyn? Morning.
I was real careful and flipped everything over, so if I did it wrong, I gotta do this last half of it, not the other, just to see if he's paying attention. 15.
This is the update for last week. We had a board meeting on Tuesday, elected officers, I'm not sure if I wrote that in there, but it is Farrah Haberman is president, Mary Jo Taylor is vice president, Chad Fisher is treasurer, and Barb Alpers is secretary. And we also reviewed a budget, and they approved this. We talked about at the retreat that they would have, I don't know, would manage the budget with your ultimate approval or consent. So that's what we laid out as some work.
Oh, she wants to play.
Okay, on the budget thing too, won't we have that approved at our annual? It's gonna be
This
the
is the
same way.
budget for 12, 11, right? It goes January.
Well, but the 11 budget's already done, as
Well,
far
this-
as our end of it.
Well, this breaks down specifically with,
I understand what you're doing.
I
This-
see,
this is
yeah,
for this
but
year.
you don't have, this,
That's our internal.
that's not right, for what the county has apportioned.
okay. I mean, I was
Well, this
operating
is-
with the understanding you didn't know exactly what that mill would.
Well, now we do know because this budget's been approved.
Okay. I hope that was conservative, because I intended for it to be low. It is, I think.
It's in the ballpark,
It's close.
which this is just a guideline, basically.
I mean, I know, it's probably realistic that in the first year especially, we will amend this at some point, but, oh yeah, you're okay. Okay, good. Okay.
What was it, Peter, what the?
78, 114.
Okay,
Hmm?
that's what's going on.
78.
78,114 is.
With what the county
is-
has
is the levy.
for 11.
Okay.
Cool.
I don't know whether to bring this up or not, but you guys did decide to do a state fair booth, which we put in there. But we did talk about doing some things a little differently, and for example, a large part of the budget in the past has been used to make the cloth bags that are handed out, and we talked about trying to do something that would measure what kind of traffic's coming through there and what result we have from that. So I don't know, something like a Stafford County buck is similar to the chamber bucks in Stafford was one of the ideas. They redeem them, then we know where they're from and how that money's getting spent in Stafford County. So anyway, the procedure in the future will be that those kinds of requests come to the board, and then we review them and ultimately.
We discussed that before we made the decision, and the fact that we need to make a decision that day. I don't know, but I brought up the point that I think that in the future that that's going to be up to the boards. That's going to be a decision the board and the director make.
Okay.
That's my opinion. We haven't.
Well, we just wanted
But
to
I
have that
think-
process.
But I
kind
think
of,
that's only
you know,
fair. I mean, it's a part, unless we're going to just assume that as something aside from economic development on its own, it's not fair to say, okay, you guys do everything but this. That's my opinion.
Well, we've always had always for years, we've had the booth down there and stuff, and of course being down there, I've seen lots of traffic through there and stuff, and I'll speak from Wichita, other people come in, and not just locally, that once you start, even with that brochure we got, that and point out some areas that, and you know, not knowing they're going to come and visit, but to see, you know, like, hey, that sounds kind of neat, even like the conveyor and go, you know, and see byway, and had a lot of interest on that, so. We don't know, we can't track who's
Well, that's
actually
why
coming.
we talked about trying to
Right.
implement something that could help us.
Something to track and see,
So, okay.
Yeah,
I just thought that having a procedure that we all understand and, you know, can feel like it's predictable
That's
will
it.
help things go smoothly.
Plus, we have 5,000 visitors guides left over.
Put $1 in each one.
Well, and you know, and I agree with what you're saying, because there's a lot of, you look at visitors guides from everywhere, there is a coupon in there. If you look through it,
right?
you'll find, well, actually more than one, several coupons, you know, from restaurants or whatever, and it is a good marketing tracking tool. You know.
Yeah, and there may be a better way, but that's the way
Yeah,
that we
I
talked
think-
about, and somehow we just
even
would
though
like
what-
to be able to track
Right.
what
I
results we're
agree.
getting out
I
of
agree.
that.
I agree too.
I think the commissioner, I'm not going to speak for all of them, but this is my opinion. They wanted to continue the state fair booth because at this point, we feel like we've got a fair amount invested in it. Don't want to just drop it. But for you guys to take it and make it more or better or whatever, go with it. But just to drop it at this point, no. Let's go ahead and use it because we've got a pretty good foundation and see if we can do something with it and give it some time. But yeah, go ahead and all these ideas you have, wonderful. I mean, it can be improved.
I don't think you had a different outcome on the idea of putting a booth. It just would have been something where all of us would have.
Well,
It would have been 10 people voting for supporting it instead of 3. That makes it
Well, I think
in a predictable.
but all we did was
predictable way.
approve, was send the
This,
check to the
we
state.
already had this, we pretty well talked about it before previous anyhow too, we had this, that we planned on going to, we had, these already sent the money in, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think we had.
We had to make a decision before
Right,
this.
we didn't have the board in place yet.
We had this already made before this.
Next year, I don't think it's going to be an issue because you guys, that board, the whole thing will be in place and it'll go through the board
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned. So we just had to make a decision at that time. That's all that is.
I might ask you a question. I got an email this week on the governor's draft economic development plan, and it is, as I understand it, just a draft at this point, but one of the main things that it lays out is for counties that have lost 10% of their population since the 2000 census, they get a series of incentives, including like a big income tax break to people that move to the county, and I don't know, several different things. Stafford County lost like 9.7% of its population, so I
We were
know.
excluded.
Well, so am I prevented from lobbying in a sense? Is there anything that prevents the county from engaging in that type of activity?
Which type
Because
of
we're
activity?
like, if I tried to
mean, to
communicate
receive
with
some of
them and
these?
say, let's put, 10% is an arbitrary number. We're the only rural county, for the most part, that, there's a lot of them. It's like there's a break there. There's nobody really particularly close to us. you know, so, you know, I think I could,
You think that you could argue that
I
we
could argue to
deserve
make
that?
the, yeah, that we fit the type of criteria that I think that they are trying to address, the type of places where schools are threatened and, you know, basic services are at risk, and we should be, you know, the policy is to incent growth in those types of communities. That's exactly what we are, and 10% is an arbitrary number. We should have been included. Am I doing anything that I
I
shouldn't?
don't think so, but I don't know.
Go for it,
Okay.
please. It's not even,
So we missed it by points six.
Less than a,
Yeah.
by
less than a
by two
percent.
people?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was definitely less than 1%. It was probably less than 0.5%.
See what you can come up with. Actually.
Okay. There's no like legal restriction on anything like that. Okay.
So you met with Frank about the clinic, and you think that there might be some funds available to help us
I've
do
definitely
that?
got some ideas to, you know, one of them is the Sunflower Foundation, which I wrote in there, and I've written grants to them before, so I'm familiar with the organization, and I think this fits with the type of thing that they tend to support. Now, they don't have any open grant, there's no open RFPs right now, so we'll have to wait at some point into the, you know, year that they choose to
Do you
make
know
those
what their calendar year
applications.
is?
Their calendar year?
Well, when this stuff
I don't know exactly
cycles
when
around.
they have several different RFPs through the year, but they'll focus them on different things, so I don't know for sure when an RFP will come up that makes that type of activity
There's probably
eligible.
other places to look.
And there's probably other places to look to. But,
I'm very interested in you seeking those. That's Frank, isn't it?
yeah,
And the people in Maxville are. I've visited with them a couple of times. And they're, you know, they're like, really? And then they're like, well, yeah, if you're serious, they just don't want to get their hopes up. It's kind of what I'm reading between the lines, maybe. And I sure don't want to promise them something that, unless I can get some information, but I want you to be explored. Please.
I see where Hutchinson has 25 people lined up for the, what's it called? Leadership.
yeah. Saw that yesterday.
And they're also, Hutchinson's also getting a foundry that is affiliated with Siemens. Got 150 jobs they've anticipated. A company from Spain starting up a foundry to make the bases for wind generators.
Sure would like to be involved in
We
some of
have a
that.
storage facility out here. Surely didn't have enough room to store all those things, you know? And we pretty much have the, we got the rough draft of the job description. There's one little item that popped up that we don't know how to address quite yet, is the organize and promote specific tourism activities and events. I think we ought to put something in there pertaining, you know, to participate in the Wetlands and Wildlife Quivira National Wildlife Refuge events. You know, other than that, I think we pretty well have the job description, and it's only 2.5 pages long. But we did admit the adding, subtracting, dividing, and multiplying.
Okay.
Try to do your job.
Yeah, that's
Get
okay.
smacked around for it.
So,
It's a good job.
Fine, no, sorry for that. Hurt my feelings.
the ability to run a calculator is acceptable. Abacus, maybe we'll have to put an abacus.
What?
Abacus.
I'm actually old enough to remember doing those in school.
Okay, yeah.
Chinese, the Oriental.
Oh,
1,400 adding machine beads.
okay. Did you have any luck with your conversations about the kilowatt hour rates, or hasn't happened yet?
And he's gonna be here this week.
You think there's a chance that they could, if the compromise is 8 or 8.5 cents, is that in between or is that the top?
It's in between.
It is, okay. Have you done the math there? Does the 8 cents work?
Not as well as 11,
Well,
but yeah, I mean, depending on how you justify it. It
Well, there
could
you
work.
go with this adding, doing fractions thing.
See,
It's
that's why it's important to get the job here. So, know more about it.
No, I'm serious. Does 8 cents work
Being
with
able
these
to
windmills?
the
Just
decimal
on the
over
basic
2
math.
spots.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, you got all these grants and all these government whatevers, and 8
Right.
cents still isn't
You
enough?
rewrite that
I
sentence.
guess is what I'm asking.
Are you
It's not a
formulating
slam
it?
dunk, but it could be justified, you know,
Okay.
especially when you consider the idea that it allows moving around the funds. I mean, it allows you taking funds out of capital outlay, freeing up general.
Yeah,
fund.
okay,
Some
I
of that
understand
stuff
that
kind of plays
argument, but
into it.
just on, windmill cost, does it pay for itself with 8 cents? Does it work? Does it work?
Yeah, I think it does.
And is it,
I mean,
Longer
think-
period of time.
is it 10 years, is it 12 years, is it 15 years? I don't know, it's not fair to ask these questions. Our county attorney was in here last week, and, they have a big deal up at Ellsworth. And I don't know, but I think we can use him and his connections to get maybe some of that interest brought down here, is why I'm asking these questions now.
What do you
With the
mean by
big,
that?
with the big mills, with some of the companies that are building up in that county, in that area, getting them to come down here into Stafford County.
Oh.
So I want to know as
well,
much
it
about
would be
wind
a
as I can.
completely different,
It is, I understand. Different concept, right?
well, yeah.
But does
and-
8 cents work? It's
Well, it wouldn't be the same, you wouldn't even be negotiating with the same type of, negotiating directly with like Midwest would be completely different than going through the
I
cities.
understand. I just
Kind
wonder,
of.
do windmills work overall is kind of my question. Is this something we should even be pursuing? I'm using this little experiment that you're doing as a guide, as a
Right.
gauge. To see if
There's
this,
never gonna be a major project at 8.5 cents. I mean, they would love that, I'm thinking, but I don't think there's probably,
you don't think they'll pay that
I
much?
don't think so.
Really? Okay.
Because that's way over wholesale. And what 8.5 cents is, it's more than wholesale, so it allows the county, or the city to recoup some of their overhead, for transmission,
All right.
but not the full amount that they generally recoup.
Right.
So, it's not clear yet whether they're going to be comfortable with that
Mhm.
compromise. But it makes it so that the school is, they would be receiving more benefit than they would be investing. So it would be a reasonable deal for the school too, I think, but I'm not sure.
But applying that towards a major wind project just doesn't, not work. And you think that 8 cents is too high?
8 cents is,
Do you have any idea what wholesale
that's,
is?
well, that's more, I mean, Midwest isn't gonna pay a wind generating company or whatever, 8 cents, because it's more than they sell it for a wholesale.
It is. It's not more than they sell for retail.
Right, it's not,
And
but they've got all their transmission costs and everything
my
too.
understanding is that once and they're gonna happen within the next few years, these agreements with Jeffries and these power companies expire, the wholesale price is gonna go up dramatically. And for some reason, 8 cents is in my head. that's gonna be the bottom end of the deal, once that happens. Once they build that new coal plant out west, for example, they're not gonna be selling that energy for 4 cents like they did when they built Jeffries 30 years ago. And signing a 30-year contract at 4 cents, they're not gonna do it. I think they're talking 10 or 12. I don't know this, I'm just, but wholesale cost of energy is gonna go up dramatically once these things happen. Because the cost of building a new plant now is so, you know, those plants are paid for. And this is just what I was told, that the 8 cents seems high now based on the wholesale price. But when a power company like Midwest or whatever looks at the cost of constructing a new facility and then selling that power, they're not going to do it for 6 cents a kilowatt. They're talking 10 or 12. And so the 8 cents for a windmill is actually very cheap. And if they can do that and prevent themselves from having to invest in a new power plant or delay it for 10 years or 20 years or whatever their money ahead, those are the kinds of things that we need to consider. So don't let them tell you that they just can't do it, because there's a lot of factors involved. And I thought maybe through your investigation here you were hearing some of this. 8 cents is a compromise, but those 4 cent rates aren't going to stick around forever. Our energy is going to cost us a lot more in the next 10 years. It is. So, anyhow, thanks. Whatever information you find in that, you know, is going to be helpful. But I do think that we have a chance of some interest coming down here if we use Joe and all his connections up there. He said they're putting in, what, another 500 mills, something like that, in that area. You start taking that
In
times.
Elkhorn County or Lincoln?
Well, it's not just in one county. White asparagus, he called it.
What?
White asparagus. Little asparagus spears sticking up all over. No, just so you understand. You guys throw initials at me all the time. I don't have any idea what it means, so I thought I'd
Throw a vegetable in that.
throw a vegetable at you. So now you know what I'm talking about. White asparagus. No, I think there's a lot of interest in, especially in my part of the country. It's something we need to be looking at now, if we have an opportunity. And I've talked to some Midwest people, and I'd love to visit with you more about it someday.
Okay.
But anyhow, I like what you're doing here. So the more we learn, the more information we have, the better off we are. But you start taking that money times $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a mill and putting that in the local economy. He said Ellsworth County is now one of the 4th or 5th wealthiest counties in the state.
And they're trying, there's,
See, because I get a little skeptical on the outside investment, because the $4,000 or $5,000 a year,
Yeah,
can, it
3 or
is,
4 or 5.
it's still in the scope of the investment, it's
Very small.
very small.
It is. And there's a lot of criticism there. And I told him, I said, you know, the criticisms I've heard is that everything's owned by a foreign company, they're built by a foreign company, and all the money that it generates goes back to Spain or Italy or whoever owns it. And he said, well, there's some truth to that. But, well, 2 of his companies were American. And he said, and I said, is it actually helping your local economy? Because there's no taxes. Well, yes, there are taxes.
There are some, you're right.
And he said, but he said, you just take that much money and put it in your local economy, and it's had a dramatic impact. So I think the positives are there. And, you know,
Yeah.
I still think it's worth pursuing, and I know that the people in my district are very excited about the chances of that happening. So I'd like to pursue that. This,
What do
we
you
actually
think-
have a
What do you
connection.
think of a smaller, a smaller scope of project, but with more local ownership?
Well,
You know, I
this is what I've talked to Midwest Energy about. What they would like is to develop, rather than wind farms, individual. The guy from Midwest said it's like this. It's a spoke on a wheel. And you got the power, and as it goes out away from the power, it takes more energy to get it out here. And if we can have energy production out here in the spokes, basically feeding back into the grid, it is of such a huge benefit to us, it's hard to explain. And the director.
Transmission and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
too.
yeah, the transmission lines, the peak loads, all of those things are huge. And he said that, the director from Midwest Energy that I talked to said that everybody's worried about transmission lines, and he said, there's a study that says that we could provide all the wind power we could use and not build a line as long as we put it in the right spot. So those are exactly the kind of things we're talking about.
But I think that's
And
with
individuals
a farm
could-
that's like a
individuals-
10 or 15 megawatt type of project as opposed to a 500 megawatt project like they've got at
Exactly.
Mill.
He's talking about putting 4 mills in there, and, you know, on a
Now
one
that
or two,
seems
you
a
know,
lot
and
more.
maybe even owned individually, so the money isn't going to Italy. These are the kinds of things I'd love to pursue.
That.
And why can't we do that? Well, I guess it's the biggest cost, the crane. Moving the crane 3 miles here to build one, 3 miles over here to build one. Things like that have to be worked out. But the idea of the individual landowner actually owning that mill,
Yeah.
Midwest Energy's all for it. Putting 2 over here, 2 over here on this guy's ground, 2 over here, 2 over here. Those are the kinds of things that I think are very exciting. But
Yeah.
we want a company to come in and build a wind farm. I'm not opposed to that. I mean, I'm open to anything.
Because didn't he say something about they were trying to get it to stay in Ellsworth because they were thinking about, you know, progressing further west into Russell County, and they're trying to get them to stay in Ellsworth County.
Well, I imagine, I don't
Yeah.
know. But
But there's plans of building another 300 towers or whatever.
I think he said 500 towers. That's a lot. Take 500 times 3,000, that's a lot of money coming into the community every year. Every year it's there. Plus the, how did he put it? It's not actually property tax, but it's, I don't know the word. But there's an agreement where
They negotiate each project has a payment in lieu of taxes or something to that
something
effect.
to that effect.
So it doesn't necessarily like raise the tax base for the county or the school districts or anything like that.
Not necessarily. There's a lot to it. But anyhow, we'll talk about that later, I hope.
Okay.
Anyhow, it's exciting, but
Thank you.
whatever you can find out, it's great. Thanks.
Thanks.
You want a motion on this now?
We can. Do you want to?
How many you got?
6 and 8.
And there are corrections. That's because you guys make so many mistakes.
You have to go talk to oil and gas appraiser. And I don't know if you
Somebody
wanna
must
talk
be
to him
just-
today 'cause he's a little grumpy.
Must be distracting him or something.
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
Did you remember your Valentine's Day? Well, I know you do, but I meant today's a special day.
We need to purchase some snow plow blades.
Well, it's not gonna snow anymore.
Also, also hauling sand there. The guys some sand today, and we'll get some salt tomorrow.
So you don't have it done?
Well, you know what, I'd rather have it not use it than not have it and need it. We've got enough out
Read the
of it.
paper somewhere, it's probably, I asked a question, I think it's middle of last of May, they had snow in Kansas one year. 27th of May.
I really wanted to buy these Jomo blades, they're rubber, they're foot carbide insert blade, they're rubber. But they wanted about $556 for a 4-foot section, and I said, that's just a little bit out of reason. I can't justify, I don't think we can get twice the wear out of them.
So what's your total price on it, both those?
26, 28, 60 from Foley's and 28, 32 from Weldon.
Do you have a preference? Is one better than the other one?
They're all carbide. One blade's just as good as the other. They're carbide insert blades, so I mean, they're basically 2 or 3 different manufacturers. So
The one from Foley would be just fine. Goes up over the $500, so I have to write it there.
Well, Foley's a little over $200 cheaper.
We need a motion?
Yep.
I move that we accept the bid from Foley for the snowplow blades.
Second.
Then moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion
Other than that, I don't have drag some notes today. Patch a few roads.
Dry enough? Probably just right.
Well, the guys tried to leave a little bit of moisture on the dirt, I mean, our recycled roads, so we have enough to drag it.
I had fun with that, now that my wife's in township. I get a complaint of her, right? And so, first of all, our road didn't get graded, bladed. The mail lady wouldn't deliver, the bus was gonna be mad, so I had to go talk to the township board about it. They turned around right at the highway. Anyhow, it got graded. And then we're going down the road, and I said, you know, if you don't leave a little snow on the road for some moisture. And she's like, gee, honey, whatever I do is wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your wife's, after you got off the floor, what'd she say then?
Yeah.
So you really gotta make up for it today, don't you?
Oh, I was right.
Well, being right isn't always the best thing.
That is it, isn't
I make a motion to approve these corrections to the tax roll.
I'll second that.
Moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Right.
Winning the battle's not near as important as.
Well, I didn't win the battle either, but I did make a point. I'm not sure what my point was, other than you're wrong no matter what you do.
That's,
So she did say, well, it'll melt and
We'll
go back
recess.
out into the middle of the road.
Are usually at 4 o'clock.
What I have is our KDOT agreement for treatment of noxious weeds on the right of way. That's what we sign every year with them. It's basically the same as last year, what, $20 an hour labor and $36 an hour for equipment.
You raised it last year, didn't you?
So this is
Yeah, raised it
Thought
last
you
year.
did.
281.50.19.
Yep,
That's it.
that's it. It's just spot treatment alone for, basically it's not, it's bindweed and Johnson grass
Yeah.
for the tree.
Yeah. You don't spray the cracks
No.
of the shoulders like.
that one.
No.
They reimburse you for doing this.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
$56 an hour, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to approve this county agreement with KDOT, noxious weeds.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. I suppose I gotta sign it in 3 different,
No, just the one spot on the back page there.
where it says title.
Well, it's you and then you have to put your title underneath it.
Who's the district engineer? Oh, that's KDOT.
Yeah. And it's much simpler. You used to have to go to 4 different district supervisors because 50 West was one, 50 East was one, 281 South was one, 281 North. But now we can just do it with one contract. So
That's great.
it's much easier.
Did you wanna look at it?
I've seen them.
No.
And then we'll mail that in and then they'll get it back to me and sign it if they're agreement to it and we'll go from there. So.
Alrighty.
Oh, and I've got knee surgery on Thursday, just to let you guys know.
All right.
I'll be back Tuesday.
Looks like somebody else who said,
Just happened to be on Thursday.
I couldn't believe I could get in on Thursday. Just told me this morning, so. Couldn't get
So
there.
you have to run the land on Thursday.
You run the landfill on Thursday? Cool.
See? Okay.
I think it'd be
that's
fun too.
I'd love to get out there on the high loader for a while and just
There
see
you go.
see what would happen.
All right.
Except when you had to pick me up from the bottom of the pot, that's a bit.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Recess. Okay, we've got the abatements done, we got the job description done, we've got the ad finished,
Well, we got the job description done. We got the ad finished.
and we're lining out.
Is there any more changes you want on the bond? I'm gonna check into the part about must being bonded, because I think that's just a given. We're gonna change the sentence I highlighted on the front page to read, promote specific city and county activities and events. We're gonna take tourism out of there. I mean, and that should encompass Quivira events, Stafford City events, St. John, whatever.
Well, we go ahead with our ad right away, and if we decide anything else we'll change on this, we can. We have time
Right,
to do it.
we took out the bachelor's degree from a four-year college in a specific field. We took that out of both the ad and the job description, so.
Just the bachelor's degree and good driving skills and current Kansas driver's license are required.
Do you want me to have them fill out an application form, or are you okay with them just sending a cover letter
And a resume.
with a resume and the three references? Because you'll want to obviously check out the references. Do we need that application form?
I think just a resume myself.
Well, I think we get at this level, having to fill out an application. Especially since we don't have one that's specific to this, it's just the generic form.
And then, okay, and then under physical demands, subject to evaluation, who is it that we have a contract
Well,
with?
we
and
don't
everything?
have jobs like this do that. That was
Okay,
just for
okay,
road
that was
crew
road
and
crew, okay.
janitor.
Okay,
I mean, we can if you want to expand that out, but we haven't, anybody else we've hired in the building, we haven't done that with.
I think it would
Except-
originally decide just have the road.
Just the road, weed, anybody that's.
Anybody that's involved in,
manual labor,
Right.
okay.
and weed department and things like that.
Okay, anything else? Roger?
I don't think so.
All right, and that's it needed for us. What we had on the agenda today. Okay, we're adjourned.